I grew up in a non-Christian background and came from a broken family. I met Jesus when I was in my teenage years and didn't really start living for him until I was well into college. My first years of college, tried to do the rebellious scene and went out and partied and spent my time doing things with people that I shouldn't have been doing. But when I was 19, God called me to Summer Project, and that really helped me just really understand how important Jesus was to my everyday life, and he wasn't just part of my religion. And 2 years later, I was blessed enough to go back and be a student intern and learn just how to be a leader, how to step into that role, and how to teach other people about God. After I graduated from college in 2008, I really had no idea what to do, but I felt like God was calling me to missions, and specifically to Australia and different countries. And I tried to go with Cru. I applied to go on Stent, which is a year-long mission trip with them. And a great leader told me no. She told me, even though, I thought my application was flawless and that I hadn't, made any huge mistakes, I hadn't struggled with alcohol, I hadn't struggled with sex lately, I hadn't made any of those huge, big sins, I still wasn't prepared to go. I still had a lot to learn and a lot I needed to grow in. Mainly they told me that I needed to be more teachable. I needed to learn how to listen and follow leadership that believed in things different than myself. And I really just needed to learn how to listen and how to love. So I continued looking into going to Australia, and eventually did. I went for 6 months. To Australia and to countries around the world. And while I was there, it was one of the hardest times of my life because I felt like I was above it, and I felt like I was better than that. The other students on my mission team were all way younger than me. They just got out of high school and just started college. And for them, some of this stuff was the first time they had ever heard about God, the first time they had ever heard about evangelism. But for me, looking at this itinerary of things we're going to learn about and do, I thought, I've done this, I've got this. I know about evangelism, I know about prayer, I know about who God is. I've got this. Why am I even here? And I sat there and I would talk to God and I'd say, God, what else could I possibly learn about you that I didn't know that they can teach me? And I think God has a sense of humor, because I think his response was everything. I knew a lot, but I had just a very little glimpse of who God really is. And for example, I had no idea that the gospel was way more than Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. It was way more than just, being saved by grace through faith in Jesus, but it also had to do with loving our neighbors as ourselves and serving them and really just meeting their needs. And so every time we would learn something, every time a professor, somebody would teach us a topic, I would disagree and think, no, there's no way you're right, because I already know about this, and that's not what I believe. But by the end of the week, I would just be in tears because I'd realized that I was wrong. I'd realized that I'd been so prideful not even to listen to somebody who might know more than me. And each week, God just totally changed my perception of who he is and what he's capable of doing. And when we went to Thailand, we went to India, and we saw the lepers and the orphans and the people stuck in slavery, and the little kids that are being, stuck in the sex trafficking, and even the temples and the sacrifices and the idols. It was like being the Old Testament, and it was terrifying, but it was awesome. And being in a place where, Jesus is just totally stepping in, and he is healing someone and casting out demons and providing in ways I never knew. I just realized that God is so much bigger than I ever thought, and he has so much that he's willing to do if we just let him. And I was amazed by that. So, I went from someone who prostituted myself to someone who fights for those being prostituted, and someone who is abandoned by their father to somebody who fights for those who don't have parents. So God just totally changed me from a person who's always serious to someone who can have a childlike faith and have joy and have peace. And I'm so grateful for that. My name is Sarah Mullis, and I am an NMSU graduate and a Cru intern.